Great to see you, Jay.
Thank you, Paul. Good to see you.
Thanks, Francisca and Judy. Well, Jay, just came off a great season. A lot to be thankful for on your end, I think. Let's just talk about that a little bit. You've worked hard to get this series to such a competitive place.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. In 2021, we had this whole page of all these great things that happened during the season, kind of a recap. In 2022, we had a similar size page full of things that happened in 2022 that were really great. So we got a great paddock. Everybody's bought into the plan and the process where we're going, what we're doing. It's a great group. When we first got here, one of the things that we really wanted to do, what we called it, was kind of harnessing the power of the paddock, right? We have all these really smart people in this paddock that all have equity in what we're doing, where we're going, wanted to succeed as we do. And that was one of the things we first did, was try to capture all them, get everybody on the same page, get everybody pointed in the same direction. And, I think, I guess next year will be season 8, which is hard to believe. That we're that far, but yeah, so far so good. We've got a long way to go. We got a lot of things we're working on. But again, we had a really, really good season in 2022.
Yeah, and the fundamental metrics are positive here, and your partnership with NBC Peacock has been productive, and you have under SJ Lutke's leadership, you've really expanded your social media footprint and outreach to influencers, and you've done a lot of things to modernize the media face and social media face of IndyCar. And I think one of the challenges that the sport has long had is attracting younger fans. And you had some events here this past year that really, to my mind, are perfect for that. What you did in Iowa was stellar. Want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
so the Iowa has always been a great event from a racing perspective. We've had 700-800 passes, per event there, which is a phenomenal amount. This year we got a great partner with IV to come in. They did a lot of engagement in their Midwestern grocery store chain. Did a lot of things in the Midwest. Obviously, the 4 concerts we had, the pre and post race on both race days of the doubleheader, were spectacular. Massively headline type acts, which was really amazing to see. We in the morning you get ready to go race, and there's this massive act. You finish the race and there's another one that pops up out of her type thing. So it was really unique. I think going into year 2 of the same type program will be bigger and better. Not the acts are certainly huge going into 2023, but I think people have a better understanding of what all they were getting for their money. There's an amazing ticket for if you think of a one day. If you just come one day, you have 2 headline acts with a race in the middle of it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think that's part of what we're seeing. Obviously, all of us in motorsports are seeing is it's not just the on track stuff or the race. You have to have an event around it. It's an all day thing. So that was a really good template. That was obviously helped tremendously by our friends at IV. Of how we should start doing things. More that direction going forward.
Well, for sure. And I was just this morning looking through a gallery of photographs from that event, and it is everything a modern IndyCar race should look like and feel like. From what I saw, I wish I'd been there.
We should come this year.
Yeah, I'll come and hang out in your bus where it's cool.
We can just set up, no problem.
But you have other place in the heart of an entertainment capital in Nashville. That's another kind of a new event that created a lot of buzz. I want to talk about the contrast between these 2 events, because you're unusual. You race on what I believe is the greatest racetrack in the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that is, it's the touchstone, the soul of the sport, and it's also very, very fast. And you go to a place like Iowa, which is the other extreme. It's very, very fast, but it's tiny. And then you go to a city street, Nashville, Long Beach, and you have a really vast band of capabilities necessary, and the audiences are different.
Yes. Well, that's one of the
Usually-
things obviously we pride ourselves on as being the, one of the most diverse series in the world, going from street courses, road courses, short ovals, super speedways. And it was amazing to think about Nashville, 2 years ago, was a similar approach to what happened at Iowa, right? Where
Yeah.
there's headline acts, there's a lot of things going on. Long Beach does that too, obviously every year.
Yeah.
But the whole part about going over a bridge, at Nashville,
Yeah.
was really kind of a unique experience, especially the first time. I know there's a lot of apprehension about that, which obviously worked out great, knock on wood, both years. From a safety perspective, we have, everything you could possibly imagine on the bridge and everywhere around it, which is great. But one of the unique things with the bridge, every night we would go out on the bridge to see what the difference is from that morning to that night, because it's a suspension bridge, so it would move. So
Yeah, right.
you have drivers come and tell you that there's a problem with, this one spot. We would go out, check it out. We would try to fix it. It would go away. The next day it could come back, or there would be a problem somewhere else because the thing moved every night. We got, I guess, overall very lucky that the weather was relatively the same both days, or every day we're there or have been there, so that helped. But it's amazing how you have, when you think about uniqueness or diversity of the series in general, there's things like that we have to deal with that you wouldn't even think of, right? That the bridge moves, right? And it could be just a millimeter of an inch, or a skosh, that type thing. And it makes a big difference because these cars obviously run very low to the ground.
Yeah, and they're very stiff, and so that for sure. And again, we're talking about things that other people don't have to deal with.
That's the
open
diversity.
wheel racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I look at the IndyCar series, where it was a decade ago and where it is now, we've been racing effectively the same foundation, the same core chassis for 12 years. And you're managing the process of evolving that over time. And it's evolved massively since it debuted. You're coming up on a significant evolution of this platform in 2024. You're deep into the testing. Are you comfortable in talking about any of that today?
Yeah, we can talk about some of it. So remember in 2016, we come up with that rolling 5-year plan.
Right.
In 17, we had the OEM kits, right? And then in 18, the AK-18 came into play. 2020, the Aeroscreen came into play. So this plan evolves and it rolls. So obviously in 2024, the next big initiative we have is with the hybrid engine coming into play. We've been working on this for some time. It's been very complicated. The reason it's been so complicated, I think, is because we're doing something very unique. It's basically you take a 100-pound piece and try to put it into a 5-pound bag, that type thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, the platform is very small in an IndyCar, so how do you make that work? So that's one of the things, one of the challenges we've been up against. We really have not, I guess, publicly announced anything of what we're actually really doing at this point. There's been a lot of things written and speculated, and it's kind of, some of it's right, some of it's not, kind of cool. But hopefully in the next little bit here, we'll be able to announce more, specifically what's going to happen, how it's going to look. We're excited to launch this program in 2024. This thing will be, it'll be very unique in that it'll be, relatively lightweight. There'll be a high horsepower piece. It'll be safe, which was a big concern. So we got a lot of things behind the scenes being worked on with this. And then obviously this will also bode some changes will come with the car because of this. So there's a lot of things being worked on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I was hoping you were to spill the beans on everything when I asked you this question, but apparently that's not going to happen today.
Well, I did a little bit, right?
I'll meet you in the bar afterwards.
Yeah, that's
but the other thing that I've read on racer.com, but some of the Marshall Pruitt content on this is, when we're getting to the point where racing cars are getting heavier, not just IndyCar with this process, we're starting to see the similar weights in Formula One. This was something that was the opposite direction of what we once believed was necessary with IndyCar or Formula One, but safety's playing a role in that. The size of the cars are playing a role in that. Just the powertrain, everything's going into it. How do you manage that? Does this a conversation dictate to the do you dictate what you want to Dallara, or is it a collaboration across the board with all the supply? How do you manage that? Because that's
Well,
complicated.
certainly collaboration is something that we work really hard on, reducing the weight of the overall car.
Yep.
One of the things you think about weight, weight's money. I mean, you can make
Yeah.
it weight probably about anything you want, but it's going to cost a whole lot to weight that amount. So there, it gets to the point where economics do matter. From this whole program, I think we started off in the 170-pound range, over where we're currently at. And we've got it down now probably in the low 80s, and we're still going down farther. We're not done, so there's still an evolution of this process of how it's going to work and where we're going to go. One of the things which you mentioned earlier, part of the weight in the car is it has been because of with safety devices, right? The aero screen weighs, 70 pounds or 60 pounds. The driver's side impact piece has a weight to it. So a lot of the weight that we've added to the car has been from a safety perspective. Which we feel is, non-negotiable. We would rather have weight and safety versus, a reduced weight of the car. But think about it. So if you look at this year at the 500, we talked about speed. So this year we had the fastest pole in the history of the 500, the fastest front row in the history of the 500, the fastest field in the history of the 500. So the fastest field is 2 years in a row. That happened in 21 and happened in 22 also, right? So that's big. We also had a handful of 100G hits throughout the course of the couple weeks. Everybody walked away. Everybody was okay. Everybody was fine. So this car is extremely safe. It's extremely fast. It races extremely well. I mean, this year we had like 5,900 on-track passes, which is the most we've had in 10 years, which is like 2,500 more on-track passes than we had last year. So you look at all the things and you go, well, this thing, it does a really good job. It races really well. It's safe. We had an incident in Texas with a 77 where there was a piece that flew off a car, the 45, and an incident, that was we talk about a social media piece. I actually tweeted something, which I don't do that often, and it got like 2 million impressions because it was a massive impact on the aero screen. The aero screen did its job. So it was, again, it's the weight has been because of the safety devices. We're working hard to get the weight off of the car. But at the end of the day, the car is really fast, and the car it's been safe.
Yeah, for sure, Jay. And kudos to you and the people you work with in developing what is a revolution in safety for IndyCar racing. You have a unique set of requirements given the velocities, the car's sustained velocity the car has at a place like Indianapolis, at Motor Speedway. You need to think a little differently about how you protect the driver. At Texas Motor Speedway. So I think that there are those in the fan base and the media that are clamoring for change and an entirely new car. You have an unusual perspective, having been principal in a team. You operated a racing team. You know what that means. Can you just tell me how that informs you in your decision making and how you approach solving these problems?
Well, it informs it a lot. And we always look at everything from a team perspective because that's obviously where we come from. And most of the people here came from teams, right? So we didn't just appear at IndyCar. You had a team background at some point,
right?
No, and again, economics matter. We want it to be fresh. We want it to be different. We want it to be, if you think of the, from the 17 car to the 18 car, it was much different. In 18, we want the car to get its IndyCar identity back. The OEM kits kind of had the rear wheel guards and kind of made it look like the fenders and different things. So in 18, it became an open wheel car again, which was great. We got our identity back. In 2020, the aero screen, could change the complete look of the car in a big way. I think also too, we actually did a little piece on what a 2012 DW12 chassis looked like versus a 2023 DW12 chassis looks like. They look completely different. It's not even, there's nothing that's the same. There's nothing on this car in 2023 that's the same as it was in 2012. So this car has evolved. It evolves every year. I did see something on Racer. One of the fans said, if they would have just called it something different every year, people, fans would have thought it was something completely different because it looks completely different. So we do understand that things need to be freshened up. There's things that are going to happen in 2024 to the car just because of the hybrid, because of the engine program. And there's some other things we're working on too to freshen it up even more. So there's more to come. Again, Economics do matter from a team perspective. We have to be smart. We have to be thorough in how we do things. One of the things with the rolling 5-year plan, one of the reasons to have it is to show the teams you want to give them 24 months before you obsolete a part, right? So they can go through their inventory so that they just don't waste what they're doing. So that's something that's very important. What we try to do, or try to keep the plan updated based on that.
Yeah, and again, it's great to see that there has been a plan that's been worked. You know, you've had to evolve it as you know, you encounter the reality of the things you're dealing with, but there has been a methodical build of this program, and you have you know, a situation now where you're going to have a transformation of the powertrain, and a more contemporary story that better aligns with what the manufacturers are selling and where the world is moving. So without telling stories out of school, could you just give a sense of the scale of effort that's been required for all involved to develop this platform, and how long this process has been going on with Chevrolet and with Honda HPD and developing this platform, and your sub-suppliers that are providing the componentry?
Well, it's been going on for, I guess, almost 3 years. You know, part of it, there was a pause to it in 2020. Basically, if you think about when we started, you know, going through the process, 2020 was just basically a survival year, right? I mean, you just needed to execute races, you needed to execute where we're going. So at that point, everything else kind of got put on pause. So that was part of that. And then since we started this process, technologies change. I mean, technology changes every day, so we're trying to keep up with that. So when we launch this in 2024, it is something that's very unique. I think it'll be something that it'll be different than what anybody else has. I think at some point it could have a passenger car application, or it could have other applications, which is going to be kind of unique. We're very proud of our partnership with, like you mentioned, with Honda and HPD and Chevrolet and Ilmor, that have jumped in and become a big part of this. You know, it's a great collaboration. I probably have 3 feet. I know this is not, you know, not 3 feet worth of paper that, you know, as this thing has evolved over the last couple of years. But at the end of the day, it's going to be, you know, hopefully the goal is to make it as light as we possibly can. They'll have, you know, 100-ish kind of type horsepower, and it'll be a safe piece. So we're quite excited about it.
Well, again, I can't wait. I think that one of the things that, you know, that for an older fan like myself, you know, I'm no longer a bright-eyed child looking at this with wonder. I've seen a lot of eras at IndyCar, and the first part of my life, I was seeing this constant change year in, year out. There were new cars, there were changes all the time, and that expectation, you know, I've come to accept is unrealistic in the context of the modern world and sustainability of teams and just the series. But you now have a formidable competitor for audience in this market space with 3 events in 2023 in Formula One. And I mentioned earlier in one of the sessions, we, at the end of last year, when IndyCar wasn't racing, in Q4, for the first time in my memory, Formula One topped the number of page views on racer.com. In the first quarter, Formula One topped the number of page views. Now, of course, IndyCar came back to the lead where it normally is on page views in the second quarter, but something's really happened there in the audience. And our audience overall has gotten younger on racer.com. The female audience component has grown. What are you doing to make these things happen beyond just a specific event thing we talked about? And how do you think you fit in that general conversation about what an open wheel car is in this modern awareness of Formula One?
Well, I think it's great for, you know, the total motorsports climate, right? I'm a Formula One fan. I'm a NASCAR fan. You know, I was in NASCAR for a long time. I think the high tides rise all boats type thing, right? So I think that we have, you know, F1 drivers or former F1 drivers come to run with us. You know, there's been conversation about, you know, some of our guys in F1. There's all this crossover. We had a 7-time Cup champion run with us for a couple of years with Jimmy Johnson. That's great. I think that this all creates different and unique eyeballs to what we do. I know when we talk to European fans, they are mesmerized by how great the on-track product of an IndyCar is, about how fun it is to watch, how, you know, the passes and, you know, all that action that goes on throughout the course of an IndyCar race. So somebody's seeing that, which is great. So I think partly, like you mentioned earlier, from an event perspective, we have to do more, and we're doing more. You know, like with Iowa, Detroit's going to look really different this year. It's going to be really big, really great. Not that it wasn't before, but it's going to be unique being downtown again. You know, Nashville is going to continue to go on. The 500 is still the largest single-day sporting event in the world. And, you know, we're going to have some new things coming for that for next year, hopefully, you know, to even enhance the race a little more. So I think, you know, we have a lot of work to do, and we're working on lots of different things. I think at the end of the day, our core product is really good, and we got to make sure that it sustains that and it continues to be really good. And I think the people that have sampled it or have watched it do see a difference. And I think that some of them that have driven both, you know, have seen differences or see what we do or how fun these cars are to drive. One of the things, when we go back to the AK18 car, our goal is to have less downforce. You know, that was a key measure to what we're doing. Put it more in the driver's hands, make it, you know, harder to drive, which, you know, to the great drivers, that makes it fun to drive.
That's what they want.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So part of it is we're a little behind on the horsepower piece, just because of, you know, with COVID and everything happened. We're, you know, the engines and the hybrids a little bit delayed from what we initially wanted it to be. So, you know, less downforce, more horsepower, put it in the driver's hands. You know, make our events even more spectacular than they are. Line them up. You know, again, fastest field in the history of the 500. You know, that type of thing. I think if you've never seen, you know, the start of the Indianapolis 500 with 33 cars going into turn one at 20, I mean, it's hard to describe. It's breathtaking. It's, you know, it's just an amazing feat, right? That just doesn't happen anywhere else in any other form of motorsports.
It doesn't. It is still one of the most thrilling things I've ever experienced. And, you know, the Indy 500 is literally the thing that got me fall in love with racing. And the people in the series have been the doorway to the world I now live in. I've met many wonderful, interesting people like yourself in this sport. But one of the things that I think is that is happening in IndyCar racing that isn't happening everywhere else is we have a female forward team that ran in your series partial season this year in Paretta Autosport. They ran the Indianapolis 500 in 2021. It drew a huge amount of attention. We look at our metrics in the first you know, period of time with the Indy 500 coverage in 2021, and Paretta Autosport was a significant driver of traffic to our website. And then you had two female competitors in the cars this year. That's a competitive advantage in my world. You know, you're showing 51% of the population that you belong in the race car, on the pit wall, in the management. You're doing just about anything. It's the environment where men and women could compete absolutely equally with no qualifier. You know, you all you got to do is qualify for the race. Yeah. So what are you planning to do there to leverage that advantage that you have? And
well, Beth will be back. Well, Beth has done an amazing job. You know, it's funny how it seems like an overnight, hey, there's, you know, she showed up, but she's been working on this very hard for some time. We're quite, you know, proud of everything that she's done. It was an amazing accomplishment. I know there's still things going on behind the scenes, you know, where they're running full time or running a big partial schedule, that type of thing. So, you know, we're fully supportive of her, just like we're all the rest of our teams. If there's anything we do to help, you know, promote that or to move that along. But it's quite amazing what what she's accomplished. I think there should be a couple of announcements coming up here too shortly with, you know, where there could be some other participation like that should be quite exciting.
Well, that's terrific, Jay. And as always, it's a pleasure to spend time with you. And I'll meet you at the bar at PRI and you can tell me everything about the hybrid program then, right?
Deal. That sounds great. Yes. Well, thank you all for having me. This is a great program. It's a pleasure to be a part of it. And you know, hopefully the rest of the next couple of days go really well too.
Well, thank you, Jay. As always, great to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.